We clasp the hands of those who go before us, turning together in circles, writes one poet. Stay together, learn the flowers, go light, writes another. Growing up, whether we were on the country roads in the big sky southern Minnesota prairie, or along a lakeshore, or simply anywhere that we could see the horizon at the beginning or end of day, my dad would take a pause and look at the changing colors in the dusk sky. He would take his slightly red-tinted sunglasses, put them on, take them off, put them on, take them off, looking at the changing colors. And while, yes, of course, the sunset on its own was beautiful, I was always struck by how long and how many times he would do that, back and forth, just sit there and stare through those red-tinted glasses, and he would pass them around to those around him and say, wow. Sometimes my brothers and I would engage it. Sometimes we weren't very attentive to it. But for just a moment, at our best, we would stop our splashing, we'd slow our pace, and our spirit guide with the glasses on the dock or wherever we were would simply say, wow, would you look at that? And the congregation gathered on that little dock proclaimed, wow. The idea of the miraculous in the commonplace or the sacred dwelling in the present moment is not a new one. Has histories in almost every religion, some way in which beauty, wonder, awe, the holy was experienced in the common, in ordinary ways. The Muslim Sufi mystic spoke of God dwelling in the ring of a hammer or a barking dog, in every drop of rain or every person's face. Earth-centered traditions proclaim the goodness and beauty of the natural world in and of itself, intrinsic value, sacred dust and dirt of earth. Christian mystics spoke of the earth as God's body itself, that to interact with the holy, one need to look no further than the natural world. We could list a million things that we experience as miraculous, all in various contexts and forms, with 1,000 different languages and words to describe them. The common thread among so many common miracles is that it causes us to pause, to give thanks, to be wrapped in awe and in wonder and in gratitude. It reminds us of our connection to the earth and its people, to all creatures. It helps root us in hope. That in this world there are 1,000 things every day that break our heart open in despair. And there are 1,001 things that call us back again to beauty and hope and to love, to mend our broken hearts. Mary Oliver writes it this way in her poem, Mindful. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It's what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. O good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. Ours is a religion that names and honors and celebrates the beauty and the miracle and the awe of the natural world, the daily presentations, the very drab, the common. From ancient mystics to the Unitarian Transcendentalists in the mid-19th century, ours is a tradition among many that believe in that old teaching that heaven isn't there or there. It's right here, right now, not someplace else. Our toddler, maybe because she's a little closer to the ground or her eyes are still adjusting with those childlike wonder lenses at the beauty of the world, regularly points things out like a little spirit guide that I would otherwise miss. So she'll be sitting in the back seat of our van in her car seat, and all of a sudden she'll just say, "There's the moon." And I'll be like, "What?" Jen and I are like in the front seat, like looking for it. We can't find it. We have no idea where it is. I'm like, "Where is it, Louisa?" She's like, "It's right there, Papa." Just like comment. She just sees it immediately. Or she'll be in the backyard and she'll just yell at the top of her lungs, "There's a butterfly!" Right? Just filled with joy. Or she'll point things out with an encyclopedic knowledge of the natural world that I've either forgotten or don't know anymore. And we'll be looking through a book and I say, "That's a dolphin, Louisa." She'll say, "That's a whale." And I'll be like, oh, it's a dolphin. And she'll say, dolphins are whales too, Papa. No idea. Blew my mind. Forgotten that, apparently. So Henry David Thoreau, who was made famous the name Walden for the pond that he built his cabin around just outside of Concord, Massachusetts, wrote and spoke of the beauty of the natural world. And as some of you know, he documented the most intrinsic details of the land and the water around Concord, and in particular Walden Pond, for which this road and hill that we are on was named by this congregation and its minister. Thoreau wrote, "I have traveled extensively around Concord." A different understanding of traveling extensively in the mid-1800s. He wrote about sauntering, about moving slowly to feel and to notice and attend to the land, the local, to pay attention to that which was close, to honor the earth beneath you, the air around you, and the connection from that place to the wider web of all things. My wife Jen and I had the chance to visit Walden Pond several years ago, visiting places around Concord and Boston, attending to and visiting Unitarian and Universalist holy sites, historic places. There was just one snag. In our sauntering, our leisurely schedule, we took our time during the day around Concord. We were sitting in First Parish in a balcony pew where Ralph Waldo Emerson would look out the window and proclaimed that the best sermon he ever heard was the snow that was falling outside the windows. As a preacher, I only take slight offense to that. But we took a little too much time walking around Concord, and we arrived at Walden Pond, which is cared for by the Massachusetts Park System with clear and posted hours and times where you can visit the pond and the cabin site. It's at least a 30-minute walk around and a visit to the cabin site, and it was closing in 15 minutes. So our sauntering became a brisk walk, not the mindful, reflective saunter we had planned or invited to by Thoreau's writings. My slow mantra of Thoreau's words as we kind of raced around the path was live deliberately, but step lively. So ever the spiritual aficionados, we took a slow jog around the reflective pond. We brushed past the cabin site with a quick, wow, and then quickly after that, let's go before we get tagged and towed. It really is a beautiful sight, one that many of you maybe have been to, one we hope to visit again during posted hours. But that's the reality of it all sometimes, isn't it? Where our intention and our attention to the world and the people and the moments around us can become frenetic and frenzied, because life and posted hours are part of the framework that life is made of. Even Thoreau, in his intention to live simply, in his words, lest life be frittered away by detail, headed back to town now and then. He had chairs in his cabin to invite guests, and honest to God, he brought his laundry into town for his mother to do. So ever the rugged individualist. And it's all right. It's easy to bash on Henry now, but that's the world I live in too, I think, where our best dreams, our best intentions, our best hope for living in balance, in discernment and coordination with our busy lives and obligations and tasks and timelines and appointments, and the messy work of creating community and being in right relationship, navigating the demands of a wider culture and our families, reminding us when we fall short, when we fail, and we hope by grace and by our will we have gentle souls to lift us up, to remind us that we are worthy, that we are beautiful, that we are whole, even with our imperfections and our failures and our falling short. That's life. It's a great children's book series about Henry David Thoreau, a cartoon version where Henry is a bear. Maybe you've seen it. One of the books is called Henry Hikes to Fitchburg. In it, Henry and a friend want to travel to Fitchburg, that's close by to Concord. Henry asks if his friend would like to hike with him. And the friend says he'd rather take the train because it's a little quicker and he'd rather work to get the money to pay for his ticket than make that long hike. So the friends say to each other as they part ways, enjoy your walk, enjoy your work. And they plan to meet in Fitchburg. So Henry's friend begins his work. He paints a fence for a little bit of money, organizes books for a few cents, cleans and gardens, does several jobs around Concord with several of our transcendentalist friends, making a few cents here and there. And at the same time, Henry hikes across fields, skips stones, and wades into the Sudbury River, picks blackberries from a patch, rests on a stone wall, marking the miles on the way to Fitchburg. The friend gathers enough money after a lot of work that day, buys a ticket, hops on the crowded train, as Henry has just a mile more to go. When Henry arrives in the town square after the sun has set, his friend who had taken the train is waiting for him on the bench in the moonlight. The friend says the train was faster, and Henry says, I know, offering a basket of fruit to his friend. I stopped for blackberries. We make choices each day in large and in small ways as individuals and communities about how we will be present to the moment, how we will infuse as many moments during the day with pause, with noticing, choices between efficiency and expediency on the one hand, or turning our normal everyday paths into a pilgrimage, a sacred sauntering into the moment of now. Jollity and gloom are contending for an empire, Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote in what Anne shared with us on the Maypole on Merry Mount. Striking and a poignant phrase. Jollity and gloom are contending for an empire. It seems that it's still the same. It becomes difficult to hold the harshness and the grief and the suffering, the pain of this world, and not be entirely overcome by it like a tidal wave. It becomes difficult to wake up to the day, open the paper, scroll through a news feed, listen to the radio or watch TV, and not be horrified by the empire of gloom, the empire of commercialism and consumerism, the empire of fear and dehumanization, the empire of greed and isolationism, the empire of racism and sexism and homophobia, transphobia, ageism, ableism, classism, and every border which seeks to divide us, separate us, and build up the illusion that we are not all kindred with all that is. That's a hard day to wake to. And in particular, if you wake up to the actual impact, the actual pain and oppression in a marginalized community. Jollity and gloom are contending for an empire. They contend for an empire in our wider world and also in our own hearts. That's where it begins. As the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said 800 years ago, if there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities, between neighbors and in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace first in the heart. The goal of religious community of any church is to hold with complete honesty the harshness of the world and to hold with complete humility the beauty of this world. To break open our hearts without breaking them entirely apart, so that that breaking open is creating good ground for compassion and resiliency and hope. There's a crack in everything, Leonard Cohen said. That's how the light gets in. At times we have opportunity, at times we have moments of attention toward beauty in the common, moments of heart-shattering brokenness that remind us of the fragility of life and love, moments that remind us how important this life is, what we hold most dear, what values come to the fore in those hard moments where we are forced to make choices around what we will do with our time, our energy, our relationships, our resources. At our best, we have times and opportunity to pause, to breathe, to notice the miraculous in the common, in the ordinary. We clasp hands of those who have gone before us, those who are with us now, and for all those yet to come. Wendell Berry writes, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light, and for a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free." What are those moments in your own life? Who are those people? Who are your people? Where do you find the grace of the world? What sources and places are holding you like a sacred fabric, wrapping you in warmth and in beauty and in love? Where do you feel free? Where is your merry mount filled with song and dance and color and light and buds and sprouts and new life? What practices ground you, remind you of beauty and of heaven right here? Atop the hill there are banners of color and beauty, welcoming and proclaiming the return of spring, where the snow melts in the music and the sun shines within our very souls, and you literally just get wrapped up in it. There across the plain on the horizon is the changing colors of a dawn or a dusk sky, inviting you, shouting with beauty, instructing you over and over again in joy, proclaiming with the volume and the voice of a young child at the sight of the moon, a butterfly. Right here and right now, the earth turns itself toward the sunrise, toward the sunset, into the night, and the world itself and each other, and if we're lucky, a church does this too. They shake us awake. They take hold of our hand and our heart, and they say, wow, would you look at that? And do you want to stop for blackberries? The hymn is Joyful, Joyful.